What is going on, Diesel Nation? We're excited to have you guys with us today on the Diesel Podcast. Today we've got Lenny Reed. He's the owner and founder of Dynomite Diesel Products. We've had him on the podcast before talking about a ton of different things, not just injectors and injection pumps, but also industry trends and different things that are going on in automotive and, really in our country and the world. And today we wanted to catch up with him about some equipment that he talked about. He had some really cool things in the works to be able to deliver probably the greatest, aftermarket injector technology and sets that can be built. And we wanted to see where he's at with that, what he's been working on. And something else I've been noticing for quite a while now, and it's not just in diesel or automotive, but across a bunch of industries, are business owners struggling with where to find people to work for them. And the way I wanted to approach this was to ask Lenny, who's been in business a really long time, has an extremely successful company, is very well respected in what he does. How does he find people to work at Dynomite Diesel Products? What are qualities that he looks for? Where does he find them? Is it, posting a job ad? Is it, at an event? Is it at a sled pull or racetrack or, a reference? Where does he find people? And the reason I wanted to touch on that is, there's a lot of you out there that are passionate about trucks. There's a lot of you that maybe in another career and you've always thought, hey, I want to enjoy what I really do. I have these skills and talents. How do I get my foot in the door in automotive or the aftermarket, or specifically diesel, which diesel is, a niche of the automotive section. And not everyone's going to have experience with, diesel trucks, or how to build them or service them or how to sell products for them or how to manage people with it. So it can be very tough to find someone that is, very specific to diesel. And so I think asking him that question, seeing what he looks for, it definitely may help some of you out there that are looking for a way to get your foot in the door and techniques that you can use to be able to, become part of the industry, do something that you love. Before we get to the podcast, anyone who's listening on a podcast app, if you want to see the guests, if you want to see the trucks, the products that we're talking about, make sure and go to YouTube, search the Diesel Podcast, click subscribe, and turn on the notification buttons. We're going to have all of our episodes for, a bit now have all been recorded. So we're recording the video with the guest, and it provides a much more in-depth experience. So if you have the time to watch on YouTube and you want to see these things, that's where you can do it. All right, let's get to the podcast with Lenny and catching up with him on what he's been up to so far in 2021. Lenny, we meet again on the Diesel Podcast for another in-depth talk about injectors, nozzles, trucks, what's going on in the world, and kind of everything in between. So I'm glad to be able to catch up with you after a couple months. I know you guys have been really busy with tons of new things. So I wanted to catch up with you, see what's new at DDP.
It has, first off, like, I kind of feel like you and I did like a lot of, like some sort of dating online where we talked, we chatted,
Yeah,
but we never saw each other. So this kind of feels like our first date.
It's been, I think I briefly met you. I want to say it was at the ATS Dyno Day, probably 2012, maybe 13. And then I think a few years later, you were out there tuning a truck. It was a maroon regular cab. Or you weren't tuning it. Somebody was tuning it, but I remember meeting up with you there. But that was quite a long time ago.
Yeah, Ben Shaddy was tuning that truck that year. Yeah. That was that's my little Lady Liberty, little 05 with Calmer on it. Yeah, it's a good truck.
So what have you been up to since like January, February? I know last time you were chatting about some new equipment coming in, some new things that you guys were working on, and now we're, 6 weeks away, 5 weeks away from summertime, and I don't know where it's all gone, but here we are.
It's basically like what we've been doing is a lot of growth. We've got, COVID has really killed a lot of things. I think it's hurting the big OEMs, like the big three selling new trucks. I think that's hurting them. I think selling new trucks for, I don't know, what's a new truck, 75 to 100 grand, basically.
I was actually looking some up, and there was two Ram 2500s. I think it was 70, actually, I have it on my phone here because I wanted to save it for later. It was, let's see, 71, 970. These are for Laramies, and 75 grand. And I was looking at Power Strokes. And they were 76 and almost 78. So 4-wheel drive, 4-door, short beds. I'm like, man, I remember when these things were, I actually remember when they were about 35 to 40. So that's kind of dating myself, but yeah. I do remember seeing them then.
I think I paid, my 94 was used with like 187,000 miles. That don't count, I guess. but my O2 was new and that was 26 grand. And then I still have that truck. My 06 was 36 grand. My 15 was 52 grand. My 19 was 85 grand. And my 97, which I love, I bought this really low mileage, just like it's got 20,000 miles on it. And now it's got a pump, 2 turbos. We pulled the interior out, dynamited it, stereo, backup camera. It's pimp. That truck, I paid almost 30 grand for that thing with like 16,000 miles on it used just a few months ago.
It's a huge trend. I think it's been going on for a little bit with people stepping back into the early common rail stuff, whether it's, LBZs or LB7s, and then of course the 03 to 0759s. This massive trend, and I don't remember where I saw it on, maybe it's Facebook or somewhere, but they were talking about how hard it is to get a new truck. And I've heard that from just friends. They're like, hey, I stopped at a Chevy dealer and they didn't have any new trucks. They got a ton of used ones. And how that's sort of affecting, what's available out there. It can be tough to get. You might have to order it. And that was a question I had for you, is as far as being a manufacturer in the aftermarket, are you guys seeing any sort of these supply chain issues like we see in, either in making vehicles or even in other industries?
The supply chain was, so when COVID first hit, like me and my crew got together, we had a meeting and made a pact that we were just going to go all in, and it was either going to crash or it was going to fly. And we got lucky because, for like 2 weeks, it looked like it was going to crash because I had just bought everything that I could get my hands on. And I thought, man, if I'm sitting on this in 12 months, like the boat is sunk. But within 2 weeks, all of a sudden, everybody was on fire. And it really hasn't changed. So we've been on fire ever since. And of course, we bought the EDM last year. That leads us to making a bunch of different patterns with holes and really small holes. Small holes are great for atomization and for keeping the environment clean, trying to keep just the opacity down, right? And now that we've got that, and it's basically working 40 to 50, some weeks, 60 hours a week. Now that it's that busy, we're working with, and this is another blessing with COVID, when the OEMs, you were telling me a story about the Ford truck, like one chip is hanging up all the trucks. They can't make any more trucks. You're waiting on chips.
Yeah.
That's a bad deal, but it's good for me. It's good for all of us little tiny shops out there, all of us little companies that need genuine OEM quality, because now the big players who, I used to be like, tap, 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 tap. I was tapping on windows trying to get in with all the big people, and it wasn't working. Yeah. And now that they're so slow, I don't even tap on the window. They just call. Hey, what's up? Hey, Len, you remember when you're tapping on the window? I sure do. So we're actually going to be, the company's changing. So we're going to be doing like a line of stock nozzles, because as we both see, these trucks are not dying and people are fixing them and people are making them better. So, we've always done bigger injectors. That's cool. But now we're going to be selling just a line of stock nozzles for virtually everything, every single common rail. We're pretty much going to put in the lineup. So if you have a common rail, whether it's a TDI, Volkswagen, or whatever, right, we're going to be stocking stock nozzles, and we'll be selling those to all the pump shops out there that are rebuilding those types of injectors. So, I do find a bunch of the stuff that, we ran the trade-in program for a while, right?
Yeah.
And that was pretty good. Like, we had a lot of interest in it, but people, they didn't take it seriously enough. So I couldn't fix, like when somebody goes, oh yeah, like I live at 8,500 feet. I want it to be smoked. When it put, the top line's always like horsepower. Oops. We're just gonna hang up. Top line's horsepower, desired horsepower. If I know that number, then I look at the rest of the form and I figure out if you have enough air and tuning and everything else to make that happen, right? But if you reply with, I want it to be as reliable as possible with my setup, and then all the questions are basically like NA or blank or I don't know.
Yeah.
I couldn't fix that.
Makes it tough.
It makes it real tough. So so what I did notice is like there was a lot of Chinese junk that was being traded in. And a lot of that Chinese junk is designed and sold for the older trucks. So currently, sorry. So currently we're that guy's gonna be mad, I'm sure. Currently we're going to get ready to, I mean, and we've been trading that stuff in, and we've been selling new stuff with good machining, good K factor. There's a lot of tricks, and I can't just tell you what all those tricks are, because if I do, then everything that I've learned and suffered the hard way, like that's all out there in the open airways for everybody to know for free, and that's not fair, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, but what I will say is the Chinese stuff that's coming in, that's where this like it's the most idiotic thing ever, but like basically engines run off of like volume, like diesel burnt volume, not diesel drowning volume, but diesel burnt volume. They don't run off whole size. They don't run off whole count. They run off the volume of fuel you can shove in there to make go boom. Now, that being said, a lot of the Chinese stuff, they're not good at measuring volume. So they just sell it as a 5x22 or a 5x25 or a 6x10 or a 7x322,000. That doesn't make any sense, because when you look in there and you're like, oof, machine works garbage. When the EDM wire approached the nozzle, like nozzle here, EDM wire comes in, you really want that to be within just a couple of thousandths of an inch, because that piece of tungsten is kind of like, it's going to do this. And if you allow like a 10 thousandths gap, it's a big whip. And then when you put the nozzle under a microscope, you'll see that it's all sorts of like crazy tracks. So when the fuel comes out to explode, it's not coming out in one area. It's coming out in kind of like all over, and all the holes are all different. So it's just a goofy spray pattern. When you're trying to get combustion proper, and you're looking at like end of injection event and where the crankshaft is at that time, and you're trying to make everything just perfect, the hole has to be perfect. So a lot of the stuff, the reason why I'm pushing for like a really good quality aftermarket OEM style nozzle is because we need to clean up the atmosphere, period. And we've gotten so much traction in the last 12 months that I feel we can come to people. And for every pump shop out there that's going to remanufacture a set of injectors, whether it's for a John Deere tractor, Volkswagen Beetle, Dodge truck, if they can buy a good injector nozzle from us, put it in their customer's vehicle and go down the road, then we clean up the black eye, right? So, and it's no joke. Like you and I were talking a year and a half ago, and I was like, man, you guys better stop deleting your trucks. Like we're making too many people mad. And Washington State, the state right next door to me, those guys are claiming like by 2030, unless you drive a 1-ton diesel, there's no 3/4-ton diesel. There's no half-ton gas. It's electric by 2030, or it's a 1-ton. It happened like that. So we need to take it real seriously. And I don't want to sound all bleak, because I don't think we have enough wire or enough electricity. I don't think we have enough AC on the planet to charge every household. If they plugged in a 40 amp charger and let it run for 7 hours, I don't think we have enough electricity to do that.
Yeah.
And even if we did, those idiots are going to see like, oh, wow, that's a lot of lithium ion, and we don't know how to reclaim it. We don't know how to recycle it. What are we going to do with that? It doesn't work either. So I kind of feel like right now the politicians, which I have zero faith in, the politicians are so ignorant to most of this stuff. They're just like, oh, let's try something new. And right now the Tesla is sexy. It's got everybody's attention and it sounds fun. It's totally new. Like, let's do it. But then you look at 96% of the electricity in the United States right now is coming from a coal-fired plant with a goddamn catalytic converter on it. It makes no sense. It does not add up.
No, and it's a whole fundamental change in really everything. And I think maybe it's a bit of wishful thinking or pandering to a group of supporters, or it sounds good, on an ad for someone, but in practicality, it's so different. And I think, when you were talking about the Injector program, it really clicked for me, because I hear a lot of people they buy something older. They want the simplicity, and And yeah, the fuel quality may be different than what that O3 was designed for, but there's tons of products you can run, put in the fuel tank, get the lubricity back, all those aspects to it. So I think what's really exciting is being able to hear about the, like you talked about, knocking on the door, and now these companies are like, hey, Marie, you're knocking on the door, is you're able to get these materials, you have the equipment there, and then you have the vision for, hey, I want to offer these injectors not just for, a brand new truck, but a 94, a 90, a 99, a 2003. And it's really exciting to see the refinement and the quality and the options that you've talked about with us before on this podcast that is going to keep these trucks running. And it's not going away. There's so many people that get messages from them, and they're just like, hey, I don't own a diesel, but I want one, or I just bought one, or I'm really excited about this. And so I'm pretty pumped up to hear how you guys have approached everything and got this plan.
The racing side of things from day number one has always inspired the OEMs to make a better product tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And so if we had an ambulance per se, which the average ambulance probably weighs 13,000 pounds, they're not going to run around on batteries because they ain't going to go very far. And I damn sure bet that you don't want to be the guy with the dead battery in the ambulance when you're the one having the baby or the heart attack. So you're not going to see an ambulance leaving the diesel marketplace. Like, that's there to stay because it just works. Like, you don't have to worry about like pulling over and charging it, or pulling over, calling another ambulance and saying, hey, come get this guy before he dies.
Yeah.
So we need to take things seriously though. Like, I feel like if we're kind of like, we know we did it wrong, but if we fix it right now, we still have a chance at showing people that we're not that club. Like, we don't have to run around rolling coal, pissing people off, acting like children. And Common Rail's helped us, because Common Rail, what we've learned is more pressure is volume going into the chamber at a quicker rate. So you've got like your injection event in microseconds, whether it's from a P pump or a CP3 pump controlled by an ECM. If you, depending on what RPM you're going to run, there's a certain amount of microseconds that work really good. And then as the crankshaft kind of comes up and heads back down the hole, when that crankshaft rolls back over and it starts to stroke down, there's a sweet spot on that as well. So if you try to end your injection event too early or too late, you end up chasing the piston down the hole with a bunch of unburnt fuel. If you try and end your injection event too early, before that crank, that connecting rod is actually swung over and is on its way down, then you basically bend a bunch of rods. The harmonics of it would be very difficult to control as well. So when you're talking about timing, you're talking about like moving the beginning of the injection event, but end of injection event is just as important. And that rings true on that 97. I can see that truck from here right now. We put a quick rate camshaft in it. So now it acts like a common rail that makes 30,000 pounds of rail pressure. But now I've got to I'm basically my own engineer now. Like, I've got to try and street drive a quick rate camshaft where that camshaft actually came out. It's like a sled pulling style cam. So when I get this thing right, we should have an injection pump that, depending on what fuel plate you have in it and where you put it and what size injectors and turbos you have, virtually it's going to be a good pump from 350 horsepower up to like 1600. It has the quantity already, but now I just got to go through and set all the recipes up.
What's really interesting about the perception that you mentioned is, we're almost in a chamber, so to speak, because we're in this industry, whether we own a company, work at one, cover it, do events, whatever. We're around people who have the same interest.
Yeah.
But I've talked to people that have nothing to do with automotive, have nothing to do with diesel. And they'll say, well, what do you do? And I go, well, I host a diesel podcast. And I get this look like, I'm the devil or something because I use the word diesel. And all they know of diesel is it's this big puff of black smoke that comes out on this equipment or these trucks or these different things. And it's a much larger perception than just, oh, it's not cool to roll coal anymore. It goes vastly beyond that. And the other part that factors into it is there's so many advanced products now, things you've talked about with the precision you're able to do with balancing injectors and honing and all these different things that didn't exist before. You can make even more power. I remember you were telling us before about I don't know if it was a truck on a dyno or an engine dyno, how much power you were making with less fuel than you used to have to do it. And that's really, I think, what we're trying to do is show that it doesn't have to look like it did before, but it can still perform as good, if not better, with the advancements, say on the fuel side. I know, transmissions and turbos and tuning and all that's separate, but with what you do, you're able to achieve that.
There is so much that I've learned in the last, say, 2 years. It's mind blowing. And I'm so interested in it now. I sold my house. So basically I live in a camp trailer. So if you ever live in a camp trailer, you don't really spend much time there. So I'm basically either at work, in a gym, driving around doing something fun, but I'm never at home watching TV ever. I just don't want to be in the camp trailer. And it's a really good opportunity because, between now and this fall, when I get into my new house, I'm basically going to continue just geeking out on what I'm doing and working all weekend when I don't have other stuff planned. And I'm kind of enjoying it, to be honest, because I'm learning so bloody much. When the guys walk in Monday, we talk about, kind of the stuff that I picked up over the weekend, whether or not I worked on, daily products or if I just tried new stuff. And with the tools that we have, we ran into more limitations, which really pisses me off, because every time you get a new tool, you're like, man, this is really going to set the world on fire. And then you realize, no, another 300 grand and you're going to be closer to setting the world on fire. So we did just buy, basically we were making really small holes. We got wire out there that's 2/7 and there's always an overburn. So call it a 3/1, 3/2 hole by the time it pops the hole. Extrude home media, we played with different media compounds and we got the cutting agent so small that it would finally flow through the holes most of the time, sort of, kind of, but not really all the time. It was a pain. It was very slow. And there was no way it was going to be profitable. So because we've been running the hone, this COVID thing's nuts. We've been running that hone. We've got 2 hones and I was making guys take shifts. So one guy would leave the hone, the other guy would jump on the hone even for lunch. And we were starting, the hone would start at 5:45, 6 a.m. and it wouldn't shut off until 5 p.m. that day. So it's really hard on the hone to run it that hard all that time. And then secondly, the consumption of the media, a pound of that stuff basically looks like a pound of butter, right? And that's like $50 for a pound of that garbage. Well, you run it like 4 times, then you throw it away. So we were consuming a load of media. And the folks at Extrude Home called me up and he was like, hey, what are you doing with this much media? And I tell him, I'm like, dude, we got a couple of different compounds. Yeah. And whenever we were on this size hole to this size hole, we were on that media. Whenever we're on that size hole to that size hole, we're on that media. And we're just wearing it out. He's like, dude, how many hours a day do you run that thing? I'm like, well, I did the math. I'm like, and I told him the story I just told you. He's like, man, that ain't the right tool. Now, instantly, I'm like, bro, I can't wait to hear the sales pitch.
Now you tell me.
Yeah. So he's like, back in the day, that was the, the deal. But now with what you're doing, as hard as you're running it, I could save you a lot of time. And all I heard him say was, you're going to spend a lot of money. So I kind of listened to it for a hot minute. And the prick baited me. He did it really good too. He kind of did the hot chick that's kind of winks at you and then leaves. And then you're like, you're writing her a $20 tip on a $5 coffee. Yeah. So he kind of got me that way. But what he did is he's like, well, this microflow machine, blah, blah, blah. It's what you need. This will be the cat's pajamas. You're going to love it. Save you a bunch of time. It does its own flow monitoring. So you put a nozzle in, you get it to the point where you want it. That's your new set point. You put the new nozzle in it. And then the small nozzle gets put in the machine runs it until it gets to the same set point within 1%. And then it automatically stops. Well, how long is that going to take? Well, anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds per nozzle. It takes me minutes per nozzle right now. So if we're going to grow, we're going to continue doing what we're going to do. We have to step up. So I bought the machine. Then here's where he got me. This is where he hot checked me. He's like, I think I have a used one. Do you want it? And I'm like, don't be stupid. Yeah. Everybody wants a bargain, right? And he's like, it's in really good shape, but I got to use one. I'm like, perfect. I'll take it. Okay, great. So he waits like 2 or 3 days, like the hot chick. Nothing. I call him, nothing. Email him, nothing. Text him, nothing. And then finally he responds to my email and says, yeah, I don't have a used one. How much is a new one? So now we're buying a new one. It's 5, he said about 20 weeks. So 4 months.
But you need it. I mean, that's a lot of time to save.
It's a massive amount of time to save. And if you look at how many dollars I've been spending a month just in extrude hone media, it was dumb money, like a lot.
Now, when we look at this from the perspective of, who's calling Dynomite Diesel Products, and, I'm not sure of the split, but I guarantee it's individual truck owners and then repair shops. And I imagine a lot of them ask you this one question is, how do I know whether I need to replace all the injectors or just do the nozzles, or do I need to spend this extra money? Can I get away with this? When you're talking to somebody and they have a problem with a truck, how do you guide them on that?
Basically, like when they call up, most shop owners are pretty keen. They get it. They understand it. We do get some retail customers that call in. They're like, hey, I want to buy some nozzles, rebuild my injectors. I'm like, no, it doesn't work. Example, we had a guy in Alaska that was very difficult to ship to, and he was trying to get his truck running, wanted to rebuild his own injectors by using old bodies with brand new nozzles. And then fortunately I got him on the phone and I explained to him how it all worked, explained to him that would not work, and explained to him that, because he wanted them tomorrow. And it was in some little village out in Alaska, and the freight was stupid money. He needed the truck, absolutely had the truck, blah, 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 need the truck. Okay, great. But you're going to have to pay, because now you really need injector bodies, because the bodies, for every ounce of fluid that goes through the nozzle to hit the piston and go bang, that all went through the control valve as well. Well, when you look at the control valve, there's like 2 orifices on the control valve, one in, one out. And then when you look at the nozzle, there's 5, 6, 7, 10 holes. So truthfully, which one takes the more damage? The one hole that's, pushing the fluid to the nozzle, or the other 5 or 10 holes that are accepting all that fluid? It's a no-brainer. The control valve gets beat up first. So you can't rebuild injectors using just nozzles. Doesn't work, won't ever work. We do a process here. If you have a truck that's got low mileage injectors, we can have you send those in. We run them, we inspect them, we put nozzles on, and we balance them just like they would have been ours. And then we ship them back to you, and it saves you big money. But with remanning being Bosch is now, they're moving plants. So they were in like North Carolina doing a bunch of remans for common rail injectors. They shut that plant down. Thanks, Joe Biden. Appreciate it. So I'm sure that because of taxes, they're going to shut that plant down. It's already closed, and everything's already on back order. So now they're going to move that plant to like Brazil, and it's not going to be an overnight turn on, right? So for a hot minute, older Dodges, newer Dodges, and a bunch of Duramaxes are all going to suffer trying to get back on the road if they want a reman product. And a lot of people, if you drive a 20-year truck, a 20-year-old truck, 15-year-old truck, you might not have the scratch to throw at brand new injectors. So you have to buy a reman. We've been doing our own remans now, thank God, for 2-3 years. And it's been working out pretty good. There was a learning curve to it, but we've got it pretty well dialed in. And because of this whole thing, 502s, which was the Bosch reman for a LB7 Duramax, those things went on back order first. And the supplier that we're using for nozzles, we're working on drawings right now. Needle valve design, nozzle design, everything about the nozzle. It's going to be a sack type nozzle, and it's going to have very similar flow characteristics to a stock LB7 injector, currently there's a Bosch nozzle that everybody uses, and that Bosch nozzle is a sack nozzle, but it's much, much bigger than the factory LB7 injector. So they choke it down by limiting the amount of needle travel that goes and feeds that nozzle, but they still don't run great. So we're basically going to use, we're just designing a nozzle that's going to be a sack type nozzle, not a VCO, because the LB7 Duramax, we don't have the problem with the P974 nozzle that is the VCO for that. But the rumor out there on the street is that nozzle's no good and they all leak after 30,000 miles, although I've been doing this 20 years and I haven't had that problem yet. But we're going to make a sack type nozzle to appease the masses. And it will be a really cool part because that we're in design right now. And we just bought 400 core yesterday or today. I think it was yesterday, just about 400 core. So we're already starting the remanning process, and we still have P974s, which I have complete confidence in, but it's not the new buzzword. Like everybody wants a sack type nozzle on their LB7. In a few months, we'll have the LB7 nozzle available in a sack at whatever size you want.
What would be the layman's definition of sack versus VCO?
VCO works really good in daily driven applications, but it does not love heat. So if you put it on a tractor, in a tractor with a plow behind it, you drop the plow, and now you basically run the thing up to governing speed, call it 2,600 RPM. And then while you're in the tractor listening to music for 10, 12 hours, combustion temperature heat soaks everything, right? The nozzle is dry underneath it. There's no fluid there to cool it. So the nozzle would live a very short life. When you put a sack, there's actually and picture that being kind of like the bottom of a sugar cone, like just a V type ice cream cone. So when the needle valve comes in, when it closes on that, there's nothing below that needle valve to keep it wet. And the fresh diesel will cool off the needle valve and the tip of the nozzle. With a sack, in layman's terms, when the needle valve goes to close, there's a very small pool of diesel that's fresh from the last injection event, and it cools the tip of the nozzle off. So when you put it in a boat where you just, like say if you leave California and run to Alaska, you're going to put it right up to governing speed and you're going to be there for 4 days, right? A VCO nozzle won't live there. It won't take the heat there. But traditionally speaking, a VCO nozzle driving away from a stoplight is a better alternative. But with high pressure common rail, pressure decreases droplet size and helps atomize the fuel much, much better. So with common rails, we get away with sack type nozzles quite well. And a sack type nozzle has a better performance characteristic when it comes to running upstairs in the RPM. So yeah.
That makes sense. I always see that.
And it's really good.
I always see that debate online of sack versus VCO, and it's usually the Duramax guys is where I hear it first. And there's lots of questions that people have asked, what's the difference between them? Which one do I need for my truck? So it's definitely kind of cool to understand it the way you described it, and which would be, better for which application. Now, as you're looking out towards, the second part of this year, what do you think the next big thing is going to be? Is it going to be
carb testing?
I was just going to ask you if it was carb stuff, or that seems to be a major push across all different categories, is to get products tested. I know they don't approve them, but just test them and kind of be able to offer something to all 50 state customers.
We're essentially like what's going to happen with our company anyway is, I mentioned I sold my house, so I'm basically a 47-year-old hobo that lives in a camp trailer now. It's fine, I like it. But my dog's fat and she takes up more room in the camp trailer than I realized in the house. So yeah, she sucks up the bed. But so at any rate, when I get out of the camp trailer, first things first, I'm actually got the dyno. We sold our dyno jet and we purchased a land and seed dyno, which is 2 hub dynos that basically kind of look, you've seen like a pallet jack.
Yeah.
So picture a pallet jack with 2 eddy currents on it that are overdriven. and you just drive the pallet jack up to the flange of, you take the wheels off, right? And then you pull this pallet jack up, and it's got like 8 on 6.5 or 8 on 170 or whatever. You put the hub adapter on it. You throw it at the truck, and then you get done bolting it, like torquing it to the truck, set it on the ground, and then you dyno right there. So that dyno is in transit within, I was promised it would be within 4 weeks. I was also promised that it would be here about February or March. Did you hear that guy drive by?
Yeah.
It sounded like Godzilla taking a shit. If you got rid of your muffler, get it back. So the dyno, basically, it's really cool because we can load up to 6,000 horsepower with it. And bear in mind, that's 6,000 wheel horsepower. So it's a truckload of power, right? We're going to be able to like do all of our own. We're actually taking, myself and Matt, one of the other guys here, we're going to be taking classes on how to do all the carb testing. So the dream is to basically take like all of my trucks, put all the emissions gear on everything, test injectors with all the emissions gear on everything, send the paperwork off to the feds, and then come up with carb and EO tested parts. So, I mean, it was a big investment by the time we build the building. So this dyno cell is going to have, I'm also a construction worker now, because you got to learn, right?
Yeah.
So 1-inch closed cell to seal everything off. And then I'm going to use this insulation called rock wool. Basically, it's like balsa rock that they grind down and then spit into layers, and then it comes out hot, and then it's fireproof, and it's super, there's a lot of little tiny stuff in there. So it absorbs the sound waves very, very well. So my neighbors have already been like, what are you doing there? I'm like, I'm building a dyno cell. It's just 24 by 36 dyno cell with one little office in it. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to dyno stuff in there. And so that'll be on my property. We got the microflow machine coming because with all of the later style trucks, you know, I'm staring at my 2019 right now. We're going to be popping smaller holes in that stuff. We've got a really good sized client that is in Australia that's doing a really good job, but their stuff is super small. Everything there is like Toyota Hilux stuff, and they're a great company, but their stuff is very difficult to do. So this new microflow machine is going to help out that consumer as well. And basically, we're just going to, with all the tools and all the people, I also thank God, because the crew that I've got here, without doubt, hands down, the best crew I've ever had. Everybody here is really sharp. Everybody here wants to do stuff. And I think we were talking about having like a second gen dyno wars, because I think 5 of the guys have second gen trucks, right? And it's not fair because one of them, Skylar's got like 3 trucks. Like he's got 1 truck for every generation damn near. But what's really cool is Chris Krebs, he's now here and he's got a VP44 truck. We've been monkeying with that, and I've been trying to talk him off the ledge because he's used to running these great big injectors that don't work. And I'm like, well, we need to back it down. So he ran it once. Chris and I, Matt and Skylar are going to be going to Yakima tomorrow, and we're going to be running the track tomorrow. Skylar's truck, we just lightened the heck out of that, put a bunch of fiberglass parts on it, deck plate motor, shabad, put a Borg Warner SXE 500 series with the 88 mil wheel in it. And we made some 5-hole VCO nozzles for that truck. And at 1200 microseconds, that thing made basically I made about 1450-ish on boost with a 1.15 housing on it. And then we added some wastegate to it to get rid of some of the drive, because boost and drive, like, people don't realize how much there is to gain or lose with boost and drive. But basically, like at 1450-ish, it ran great. It didn't make any heat. Boost was like 60 and drive was like 62, and it made 1450. We opened up the wastegate. EGT basically stayed the same. Boost dropped by a couple pounds. Drive dropped by like 4 or 5 pounds. So it was now negative. It was under the boost, and it made 15, I think it was like 1520. So it picked up like 70 horsepower just by losing a couple pounds of drive.
That's some good power.
It's on a single 88 millimeter board.
Yeah.
And everybody talks shit about those turbos. They ain't no good. They're dogs, blah, blah, blah. Thing spools up yesterday and just, it's crazy.
I had Chris on the podcast a long time ago. He did a VP44 episode with us, and I remember seeing that truck and just hearing about it. And, you reminded me of something I'm seeing a lot more now, with mostly from shop owners, business owners. They talk about their crew and trying to find people and trying to, I guess it's really hard right now. And so, for maybe a young shop owner out there, or somebody that has a new business, maybe they're fabbing stuff or just doing whatever they're doing, it might even be a different industry. What would you suggest to them to be able to, one, find people, and then two, retain them as the kind of economy is now, and just how difficult things can be?
So in my life, I have like certain people for certain things that I go to because I feel like they're the best at that. One of my buddies, his name's Ashton Wolf, and he owns a company in Washington State. It's a plumbing company, right? Now, back in like 06, 07, 08, Ashton was a very young fella that bought his company from his dad, but him and his dad started the company when Ashton was still like in junior high. So Ashton knew the company, like all the bidding side of the company from day one. And Ashton gets to work at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, kicks ass, takes lunch, leaves early. He's a very straight, he's like that, he's very organized. And then 08 hit. He went from like 75 employees kicking ass. He had buildings and he was awesome. Like he was killing it. 08 hit, he was down to like 15. Like you couldn't buy a job. So you go from 17 to or 75 down to 15. And then a few years later, when the economy's turned back on, I look and I'm like, Ashton, how did you do that? What do you mean? You've got 150 employees. Yeah. I'm like, how'd you do that? He goes, I basically, like, everywhere I go, I'm looking to hire somebody. I'll go to McDonald's, and if I see a kid that's busting his ass, I just walk up to him and, hey man, you want a job at a real career? Well, yeah, of course I do. Okay, great. I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'm going to hire you. I'm going to give you 9 days to prove to me that you're worthwhile. And on the 10th day, you're either going to get all of my investment put back into you, or you're going to get fired. And you instantly find out who's willing to bust their ass for you and who's willing to not.
So you got to always be looking for talent.
Always.
Always.
And you always got to, you don't know. Like you can't talk shit about a woman that does TIG welding, because most women that TIG weld are extremely good at it. It's a man's industry. I get that, but women have a finer hand than we do, right? So you look at a TIG weld and you're like, wow, that's beautiful. Oh yeah, Cassandra did that. So you've always got to be looking for talent. You just don't know. So yeah, we employed that. Like I came home and we started hiring people. And when I hire them, I'm like, I'm going to give you a week. If you kick ass, you're in. If you don't, you're gone. And, a lot of guys, they show their hand. You at least know what their potential is within the first business day, but you learn a lot within the first week. And truthfully, honestly, like my crew, I love every one of them. They're fantastic. My crew will fire people before I do. Like they don't want their ship upset, right? Like they'll come to me and be like, this guy's doing this, this guy's doing that. And it's not their job to get on that person. But then I go to that person and be like, hey man, so I heard 2 or 3 times this week that you're doing this, that, and the other. That true? Yeah. But you better fix it, because if not, we're going to fire you. Okay. And I mean, it's pretty simple.
So then when you have this group of people that are there and they've proven themselves, then they have a vested interest in staying there. And it's not just a job or a 9 to 5 that they're doing. It's much more of a personal connection they have to the company, which probably makes it a lot easier to retain them and keep them happy and help them personally and professionally grow. Somebody, say you do just hire someone, like, hey, I need someone to sweep the shop and clean up, and they just do a great job, and they say, hey, you know what, maybe I want to get into the office stuff, or maybe I want to learn how to, extrude hone, or do different things, or work on trucks, and you can lay out that career path for them so they don't have to look to go elsewhere to find something like that.
I'm the first guy to say that internal promotion is always the best. Like try to give somebody, we're going to need this, and let everybody kind of dogfight for it to figure out who really fits it. Right now we've got two dudes. We got Chris Krebs and Jeff Franks. And those guys are basically alternating between sales and building injectors. And we're going to put them in 6-month cycles because they both want to build injectors. But I need somebody for sales up front because we only have one guy and poor Drew's getting his ass kicked up here. So he has to have somebody.
Yeah.
So I'm, right now Jeff Franks is up here at the front counter with Drew, and he's helping him out and he's learning the ropes because when Drew takes vacation, I'm not going to tell Drew he can't because I'm too dumb to do Drew's job. So Jeff has to do that job for a while. And then in 6 months, then Chris will have to come back up here because those two guys were hired very similar times. And I'm not going to make somebody that's been in the back. If Adrian walks up to me and says, I want to work the front counter, different story. Then Adrian gets to come and work front counter, no problem. Like nobody wants to work the front counter. Everybody wants to build parts. So when that finally changes, then we'll, that'd be a curveball. But yeah, right now, internal promotion, and I can the way that the geography of like injector remanufacturing is going and as fast as it's growing, if I could hire 2 more guys tomorrow, I would hire them tomorrow. Do I have a tool? Not really. We picked up, well, I can't say that. We did just pick up another armadillo. So that gives us 5 common rail test stands. And currently one of them's not even hooked up or plugged in because Corona, so it's wired at 50 Hertz and it needs to be wired at 60 Hertz. But in the past, the electronics, when I ordered the machine, the electronics were available to just come to America at 60 Hertz. And this time they're not. So now I've got to buy a converter, whatever that is, some sort of a converter to go from because our wall is going to put out 60 Hertz, meaning like 60 up and down on the scope is going to happen every second. This machine is ready to see 50 of those. So we've got to get this converter that's going to be out by our electric panel, and then we'll have another armadillo fired up. So, dude, we're growing like wildfire. And it's because the trucks are getting old. Like you can't, I don't know how many thousand trucks there are on the road, but you multiply that times how many cylinders, that's an injector. And we're not doing all of them by any stretch of the imagination.
I think somebody's sitting out there and they're thinking, man, I love trucks. I go to events. I've always been looking at them. I watch YouTube videos, and, with the last year, they might've been in another career and that went away, or they got laid off or something like that. And I know there's somebody out there that's listening. They're thinking, well, how do I go work for Lenny? And what is a way that somebody could get your attention? If I guess really with any company or industry that they want to break into, how do they separate themselves? Is it something they say? Is it something they do? Is it just being persistent and emailing you once a week, every month for months? How do they do that?
Honestly, I'd say, for me, it's not really that. Like I literally seek out online dating. Like that's not a good deal if you're looking at somebody that lives 300 miles away from you. It's not going to work. But online dating, when you punch in 5 minutes from where you're at, you get rid of a lot of options, but at least that person can get to your company very quickly, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like online dating. I would rather go to Taco Bell and meet somebody that's hustling, and as he's standing around listening to people complain about their lives and their jobs, he's got a smile and he's out rubbing tables and getting her done, or she. And then you just walk up and be like, hey, so you like this place? No, I'd love to leave. Come see me. All right, great. So with one of my guys, he worked at a tire shop right down the road from us. And he came in one day asking for help on his truck, very interested in doing it correctly. So he already had my attention. With Chris Krebs, he's in the industry. Like I knew he worked at Alligator, but before he went to Alligator, he was a cop and a drag racer. So I've known him for a very long time. After he left Alligator, we hired him really briefly, just for a short time. So I knew what his work ethic was like. And then I knew that his kids were here in town and he was doing excavation in Oregon. So a couple months ago, I was like, I'm going out of my mind. I'm just too busy. And my daughter's like, you need to hire Chris Krebs. All right, cool. So shot him a text. Hey, what are you up to? You really like working down there? Oh yeah, I love my job. Love what I do. Okay, great. You want to do something different here? He came up and, he's been crushing it. So it just depends. Like
Yeah.
some companies are a lot more professional than we are. Like I would honestly say if you're trying to, whenever we need somebody, I post it on my Facebook because somebody knows somebody that fits the part. And I have good luck that way. Some companies go through temporary agencies and they go through all sorts of hoops, but they're searching for people that aren't really interested in what it is they do. Well, fact of the matter is, like, if you have friends on your Facebook page, they probably are into what you're building. If I build custom engines and I post personally, hey, look, I'm looking for an engine builder, you're probably going to get somebody that's willing to move from wherever to wherever to build custom engines, right? So it only takes one to change your crew.
Yeah. I mean, I think to like just a couple different examples. Like when I got out of college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but something that interested me was construction. And I thought, I'm not going to build anything. Like I'm not hands on, I'm not a craftsman woodworker, but I knew how to sell things or talk about things. And I saw this big company was hiring for a sales position. And they were in California. I didn't live there. And they had this interview process where I had to fly from Denver to Dallas to Tampa, interview, and then fly back the same day. So it was like 3 different airports flying back. And then you go through this whole process. And I had to, front the money. I had to buy the plane tickets, but I had to go to where they were at. I had to go into their corporate offices, get the job. And then I compare it to other avenues where I networked and I knew people, like you mentioned. So, I have similar interests with someone, or maybe I knew someone, and this place is hiring. I say, hey, this guy'd be great for it. He loves doing this. This is what he's done. So there's a couple different ways, you can approach it. And so I hope if someone is out there in that position or thinking, man, I want to do this, you have to create the opportunity, whether it's through networking, whether it's jumping on a plane, getting in the truck, driving, 6 hours, changing the location that you're at to have the opportunity. It's almost impossible to find it right in your town, or a couple blocks over. You might have to travel, and you got to be willing to do that. So I think that helps a lot of people out there with what you look for, how you recruit talent, how you keep your crew together. And then also on the other side is how do you become part of a company that you can grow with and you're happy with, and you can do things that you absolutely love to do.
So I've done a lot of things incorrectly, like I truly have, right? And since I just been reading a lot more. And Jocko Willenick,
He's cool.
He's a pretty sharp cat, right?
Yeah.
He's a pretty basic, the amount of popularity he has for his background, it's mind-blowing how popular he is for what he's done. Like it doesn't add up. But then again, The Rock is multi times popular, and he was a goddamn WWE wrestler. Like that doesn't add up either. So, but it is kind of ironic how The Rock endorsed Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and now he's got his own primetime TV show.
Yeah. I think he talked about running too.
See that. Oh my goodness. If you didn't see that shit coming like from a mile away, what the fuck? Anyway, so with all the stuff that I've done incorrectly, I've learned how to do some stuff never again the same way. But what I do now, like yesterday, we had a meeting. We have meetings often, like 3-4 times a week, right? And they're quick. They're 15 minutes, no big deal. But we give everybody the chance to say which machine's acting up, what needs service, what's goofy, what are we running low on, things like that, right?
Yeah.
And we had to talk about, a customer sent some nozzles and injectors in, and the injectors weren't running correctly. So they sent them in. They had 1 bad injector body, but 6 bad nozzles. So obviously we replaced all 6 nozzles, gave them 1 new injector body, down the road they go. The shop puts them in and they expect our stuff to be stupid clean. And the shop owner's like, hey man, need to talk to you. Okay, so I call him. He's like, so what do you figure the chances are? This thing runs like it's got the wrong spray angle and nozzle. And I'm like, well, you sent us the correct nozzle. So I would think that we wouldn't have messed that up, but anything's possible. So then I reach back to Drew and I pull the invoice, and then and at the same time, my shop owner does the same thing. We both come to the conclusion that we've sent him the wrong style, the wrong spray angle and nozzle. So I get back to the shop. I'm like, hey, get this guy nozzles for tomorrow. Get him a nozzle tool. Send him sweatshirts, t-shirts, everything, and we owe him money. Like, he's already spent the money to put the nozzles in or the injectors in, and he's going to be spending money to take them back out and put them back in. So we're going to pay him. So we take care of the customer, but the employee, basically, he was with me at the moment, right? And we're going through, one guy goes through 8 sets of injectors every day. So he's like, I don't remember that one. I don't blame you. We get back to work the next morning, look at the paperwork, and it's actually that guy. I'm like, top shelf dude. So we got to talk about it. And I'm like, all right, guys, is there something in the system that we need to fix to make sure this doesn't happen? Everybody kind of looks around the room. They're like, no. All right, look, if you're bullshitting about the weekend or whatever, you're not concentrating on your job, and you could kill somebody's motor. Fortunately, this shop knew that it wasn't supposed to run like that, so they pulled the plug on it. But if this went to a consumer incorrectly, we would have messed up. So what are we going to do? We're going to focus a little bit more. All right, great. So that being said, the moment that we had to, talk about the bad thing that had gone down, I instantly say, guys, I want you all to understand something. I messed up recently too. And then I explained the situation where I messed up. I look around the room and I'm like, anybody here think I'm perfect? And they're like, no. I'm like, good, because none of us are. Every single one of us can mess up. This time it was his turn, but as I'm telling you, my turn was that other time you guys didn't even know about. Humility is a good thing. If your boss walks in and he's like, I need you to do this, and you need to do that, you need to do that, you need to do that, you can hire the best people on the planet. You're not going to keep them. So retention, there might be a guy that walks in and offers my crew 10 grand a year to go do something else. But if they love their job and they love coming to work here and they haven't given up on me as a person yet, they're not leaving, not for 10 grand. So there's other books about this, but basically whenever an employee quits, they usually quit on their supervisor long before they actually turned in their notice. And you just got to ask your employee, like, why'd you quit? Because it wasn't over $3 an hour. So yeah, there's a lot to it. But right now it's competitive, and you're also competing with the government right now. You can stay home and make a pile of money. Why go to work? So we have to compete against that right now too.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. And that's, I did an episode recently with David Shepard. I'm not sure if you saw that one. But he had mentioned you'd come up on there as far as,
I love that guy. He's hilarious.
Yeah. And, he was part of what we talked about was how he reinvested and invested differently into his company and his crew, and how important that is. And I just keep seeing these posts all the time from shop owners and, CEOs of talking about how hard it is to find people and those sorts of things. And then I contrast that with the messages we get. Hey, I heard this episode. Fired me up, man. I want to get involved in this. How do I do it? And so I wanted to make that kind of connection from both sides, so somebody understands, hey, how do I get Lenny's attention, or what do I do, or how do I, maybe it's in construction. We heard from a lot of construction people on that episode with David Shepard about some of the business lessons, and they want to do the same thing. And I have family that work in that industry, and they tell me, hey, man, it's hard to find somebody to stick around, or they do. And, this guy started as a laborer, and now he's a foreman, or now he's a superintendent. And so I think that's really important to kind of shed light on diesel, because it's a growing industry that's becoming so refined and so technical and precise, as I've said before, with not just the parts, but how we operate, how we sell parts, how we deliver them, how we write the instructions. And it's just being able to connect the people that want to work in it to the employers that need people, I think is going to keep this industry growing and going in the direction that it really has to go, as we talked about at the beginning of the podcast.
Today's Thursday, so the 4th, is that Tuesday? I think it is.
Let's see. I think it's Tuesday.
So this guy that, I used to tap on his window, that the window was always like blind shut, nobody was answering, kind of a thing. I had the ghetto blaster like on my shoulder trying to serenade him. And then they contacted us, and we've been buying so much from them recently that they're coming here. So they'll be here Tuesday, and this relationship's less than a month old. But based off of some situations that we've already had and how we dealt with them and how we got through them and how positive it turned out, this guy's like, man, we need to meet. So, and he told me that his whole thing was, yes, I'll sign your form, because I don't want to give him designs and drawings and then have my part be everybody's part because he went and sold it to everybody else, right? He's like, no, absolutely, I'll sign your part. You know, I got no problem. I'll sign it. I'll sign it. I'll sign it. He says, but more importantly to me, second generation diesel manufacturing guy, he says, more importantly to me is a good handshake. I'd like to see you. I'd like to meet you. And I'd like to shake your hand. I'm like, get on over here, buddy. Like, I'm not taking time off to come see you right now, but if you want to come see me, by all means, come hang out. So he comes in Tuesday. He'll be here working with us on Wednesday, and then he flies out Thursday. So this industry is changing, and a lot of the industry was just big OEM people that dominated it, and the small aftermarket people had to deal with what we were left with. But now, with trucks being 20 years old, OEMs couldn't give any care about those old parts. So we buy a lot of one part number injector, and it's every single year since I've started this gig, that one part number goes on back order every year without miss, always goes on back order. That forces me to go from using nice, clean, brand new, fresh bodies to trying to scrub up and clean and throw away and cull out a bunch of used bodies and basically remanufacture, which is very time consuming, and you lose money. And the consumer gets in like, it's a reman. It works. It does what it's supposed to do, but it's a reman. Well, I don't love that. So 2 years ago, we started drawings, and we finally got an OEM supplier to manufacture something for us. So we bought thousands of them, and we've got thousands of them. So recently I had a guy walk in trying to sell us parts, and I asked him about XYZ123. He's like, oh yeah, they're on back order. I'm like, well, how many need? What do you mean? I'm like, I got now 2,000-3,000 of them. The guy was like, what? Yeah, because I got tired of waiting on guys like you telling me everything's on back order all the time. So everything I know is going to come on back order. We're just going to have it made.
Yeah.
And the level that so when you go to a manufacturer, you can get in with like bottom feeders that aren't really good technically for buying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets. And you can get in with what I would find to be kind of a mid-grade quality product for 20, 30 grand. And then the OEM kind of guys, like, they don't even answer the phone for 20 or 30 grand. So because COVID, because PPP money, because of all these things and the traffic we've picked up, we're just reinvesting all of it back into the company to put ourselves basically leaps and bounds in front of everybody else. Catching up now would be tough. Technically, we're going to be the very first aftermarket manufacturer that will have microflow technology, period. So it will be tough to catch up, because that's a $300,000 tool, and it doesn't brush your teeth. It doesn't open the door for you. All it does is run media in a very liquid type compound through a nozzle spray holder to shake K factor. That's it.
That's a really important business lesson with what's gone on the last year, as well as, some places pull back and some went full steam ahead, and to try to make that up in the future is going to be even harder.
Oh yeah.
Even harder to do that. And it doesn't, it's not just parts, it can be with people, with investments, with whatever it might be. And that's going to be a huge lesson that probably won't really see for a little bit, maybe, a year or two, but going to look back, and there's going to be a lot of people who regret it and thought, man, I should have taken that opportunity to get ahead so much farther than I would have otherwise.
You've seen a lot of drag racing, right?
Yeah.
And you take a guy with a 1,200 horsepower truck, it's going to fly, it's going to move. And you park it next to a guy with 1,800 horsepower. And the guy with 1800 numerically wins every single day of the week, right? But the guy with 1800 comes out, kicks the tires free for 7/10 of a second, chops the gas, gets back into it, gets down. In a quarter mile, he doesn't have enough time to catch back up. So when you look at a company that makes a blurble, that blurble could cost them years to catch back up. Mm-hmm. So you really got to kind of be very much paying attention, and luck is a lot of it too, right? Like you know what I just bought, my son-in-law was like, yeah, you know, I invested on this dog coin stuff. It's like a penny. All right, you know, I'll just buy a bunch of it just for fun, right? And then it's 37-40 cents. We're like, what the hell? It's 40 cents. I'm not saying I'm like an expert trader. It was dumb luck. And sometimes you just got to take it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting times that we're in, Lenny. I always like chatting with you and seeing where the conversation goes. And there's so many lessons that you have and things that you've learned from other people or just being in business that really helps, I think, impact people. Like I said, you've come up on a lot of other podcasts with different topics, whether it's inspiring people to get up at 4 a.m. and go for a run or some of those crazy things I see on your...
I inspired nobody to run. I promise you. I'll tell somebody to pick up something heavy, put it back down, but I ain't never telling nobody to
run. But yeah, just it's cool to chat with you, and I look forward to seeing some of these products and that the carb testing you talked about. That's something that's huge, comes up all the time for people who are interested in it, and we didn't touch on it entirely, but just on these newer trucks, or well, not a new one, so you have one that's 3 or 4 years old, and it doesn't have those parts anymore, and you're like, hey, well, my state just changed, I got to go get this thing emission tested, and I've got to buy these parts again. Yeah. And how expensive that is. I mean, I was just browsing around and it was like $800 for an EGR coolers, $850 for the valve on like a 13 to 18. So you're $1,500 in the EGR system, not counting the DPF. So you're getting in this pretty deep. And that's another question we get a lot is, hey, I have this truck and I want to make it emissions compliant. What am I looking at for price? And it's like, man, you're looking at $4, $5, $6 depending on the model, depending on the year it is. And something to think about before you do it is, what am I going to have to spend if something changes or I want to drive it someplace or whatever it might be.
If you're building an off-the-road race truck, enjoy. Do what you got to do and build the off-the-road race truck. Because when somebody goes to the track and you smoke the light out, they don't have Prius owners who voted, for the blue team hating you. They don't have them writing their state congressman about the pollution. When you go to a tractor pull or a sled pull, you don't have those people writing letters to our legislators and throwing us under the bus. But when you're on the street and you're just rolling coal, fix your junk. It just needs to be fixed because this is a real thing. I'm 20 miles from a state that claims it's going to be all electric with the exception of 1 ton and bigger stuff in 9 years. 9 years. So you could be in that state right now. If you're in Washington, you're rolling coal, fix it before you're done. Period. It's unfortunate, but, and I didn't, when Lenny becomes the voice of reason, you all done waited too long.
Well, it's heading that way, and it's heading there fast. And I think one of the ways that, it's seen is just with who can't supply parts or tuning or other things. They just don't exist anymore. It's not worth the risk.
Yeah.
Or the penalties, or even worse. So that's kind of drying up, and I think that's where these two merge together, because the desire for more torque isn't going to go away. Desire for more power, desire for lower EGTs, better pulling power, that's not going to go away. But what is satisfying or will satisfy that is the aftermarket. And can I buy these injectors from Lenny that have the carb number? Cool. Can I get this turbo that has a carb number? Can I get this and that and all these different things?
Did Fleece, are you in Fleece's building?
No.
1, 2.
They sent a ton of stuff.
Dude, what the hell? I see 6 Fleece swags. Those guys are killing it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I asked.
Nobody dumb there. They got that figured out.
Yeah, they're like, "Hey, can we get you some stuff?" I said, "Sure." So I got. That doesn't even have all the T-shirts.
Jiminy crickets. I'll send you a rent payment if you'll put me up there 6 times. there's dynamite behind
Yeah.
somebody else's brochure.
I put you right in that thing. That I got a huge decal. It is huge. I'm like, well, where can I put it? And
It's
then
24 inches.
it's pretty big.
I guess in your world, that's huge.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
There's a shirt up there too.
Yeah, I got a shirt. There's a shirt that's back. It's kind of reverse. Yeah, it's like right there.
Yeah. Is that a social distancing shirt?
No.
Dude, I get so many compliments on that social distancing shirt. It is amazing.
Oh, that one's cool. I remember seeing it. I'm like, I need this.
I'll send you, yeah. The social distancing shirt, like I'll be standing in line and somebody will walk up behind me and be like, I don't even know what diesel injector is, but that's funny shit.
Well, as always, Lenny, I appreciate you chatting with us today, making us laugh, dropping some knowledge, and yeah, keep us updated on stuff. We'll sit back down, chat here pretty soon, and things change so fast. It's always a whole different, topic and kind of road we go down. But I appreciate your time today, and having a good time and learning some stuff.
I got to apologize because this was like the first real date, and it was kind of awkward for like 20 minutes. So, I mean, hats off to Captain Morgan. I think it took the edge off. This was kind of weird. Like, this is my second Zoom date ever.
Oh, and I had never used Zoom, and I like refused to forever, and then I'd have some people are like, well, it would make the guests more comfortable because they could see like when we pause, when we talk, all these kind of different things. I'm like, all right, well, I'll do Zoom. I'll jump on, and it's kind of it's not like being in person, but it's probably more personal than you're on a phone or you're talking through some other app and you can't see the expressions or anything
so
like that.
do the people on like YouTube and all that stuff, will they see us now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the YouTube, and we've seen more people watching. It is kind of tough in a way for a podcast to be on YouTube because their podcasts are so long, and normally on YouTube we're watching 5-10 minute videos. But yeah, over the years people say, hey, man, I don't do iTunes, I don't do Spotify, I get all my information on YouTube. And we were thinking, you know what, if I get on YouTube, I like to see, even if it's just two people talking, I'd rather watch that than just
for sure
a screen. So yeah, they're gonna see us.
You know who like Seth Fiorce is?
No.
He's a bad mofo. He's got a Axon sledge. He's a bodybuilder, right? He's in Pennsylvania. He's got a Dodge truck. That's why I like him. The fact that he has a diesel and chainsaws and shit, that's cool. But he's got a pretty solid podcast as well. And it's him and then one of his like long-term buddies. And you just sit there and watch these guys forever. And for me, I do it like I'll watch them when I'm just doing cardio because they just bullshit about life, like what they did last night and their kids at gymnastics and all that kind of stuff. Completely normal life. But the amount of like t-shirts and stuff they sell is retarded. So I do. And Joe Rogan, like if you couldn't see Joe Rogan, would he be that cool? No,
there's some content creators where I don't need to see them. It's just what they're talking about interests me enough. But then there's other ones I need to see them. I need to be able to see what they're doing and how they're interacting. It just makes it, I don't know, it holds my attention more.
What's her name? The one that you said would hold your attention? Yeah. I do appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I don't want to drag this out too much longer because I'm hungry.
But, time to eat.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Lenny.
Take care, man. Thank you.
Don't forget, Diesel fans, make sure and go to YouTube, search a Diesel Podcast, click the subscribe button, and turn on the notifications if you're looking to see more information. If you want to see the guests, you want to see the trucks, the parts, if you want to ask questions, the comment section is a great place to be able to either ask us, hey, have this person on, or you didn't ask this question, I'm really curious about this. And I do check them. And so a lot of times I'll see a question that came in after a podcast and I didn't ask it or didn't even think to, and I'll reach out to the guest afterwards and ask them and then reply back so you get your answer. So I love being able to interact with you guys that way, and being able to see, what your show suggestions are, or a company. Sometimes you guys suggest companies I haven't heard from or about. They have a really cool product I know that would help a lot of people. I'd love to get them onto the podcast. And we're really excited. We're approaching 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're, I think, a couple hundred away now. And so we appreciate all of you guys that have subscribed to us, not just on YouTube, but also podcast apps, all the way back to January 2016 was our first one. So the last 5 years have definitely flown by. And I remember somebody asked me once, they said, I think it was our first year, hey, how are you going to continue doing the podcast? Like, what are you going to talk about? And there is so much information that 5 years later, we still can't cover it all. There's so many cool things you guys are working on. We want to hear about it. I want to see the trucks. Make sure and comment on YouTube, or if you're not on YouTube, go to Instagram, search Diesel Podcast, send us a direct message. I'd love to see the truck pictures that you guys have, the builds, there's videos, there's lots of cool things you guys send in, and send them in there. If you want to be on the show, or somebody who'd be great, would be a great guest, you can also send it on Instagram as well. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.